do you align with your spouse, where you going in life? Like, what are your targets, goals, chapters, direction in life? How does it happen? That communication, that alignment, and the kind of split of responsibilities. Maybe I'm contributing this, you contributing that, and so forth. How does it happen in your family?
Oh, talk, talk a lot. We are very clear what we want in our life. We planned next 10 years. We plan another 10 years after that. We know exactly what we want to do when we retire. And, we've talked a lot. So, and then we are working hard too, right? At the same time, make a plan. Again, goes back to what I said. Know what you want. First thing, identify what you want. Then come up with the plan, how you are going to do that and execute your plan. So that's what me and my wife we're doing. We know what we want. We know where we want to be in terms of anything, right? Like raising kids, retiring, um, and we are executing based on what needs to be done. Did I answer your question? I think I
Yeah,
did, right?
yeah,
Okay.
I think you
Okay.
did. And follow-up question, you said a lot of communication. How does it usually happens over dining table, or you have kind of routines that you assembled for reconnect and or it just happens sporadically in a car on the way to a gas station type of thing?
Oh, it just happens.
Hmm.
It can happen, anytime we're talking about any topic. Yeah, I don't think, we have a calendar invite to discuss about future. But as you said, like it's mostly spontaneous based on different situation conditions. Yeah, I think, key is talk.
So just find a way, right? One way or another.
Oh,
Right
yeah.
now, during COVID, we've been locked in our places. So we had a lot of time with significant others. But before that, were you always had enough time for talk, or you had to kind of make arrangement to make it more easy to happen?
Oh, you've seen how we live, right? So we've always been very close, connected, me and my wife, and kids too. We talk a lot. We do things together. You know, we want to go out for a walk, we go together. We want to go somewhere, we want to plan a trip, we want to vacation. We try to do things as much as possible together. And we spend a lot of time before COVID, during COVID, and even now. So, um, yeah.
So time together were now a challenge for you, right? You basically built in it in your lifestyle to have a lot of together time, right?
Yeah, yeah. Goes back to what I said. That's what I've seen when I was a kid. That's how my parents were together, and everybody around the family were together, right? So I'm just built that way.
Yeah, I noticed it more and more, kind of looking back on how I was raised, my parents, how other people were, I guess I imagine how they've been raised. And I
Mhm.
see that basically you have two camps or two categories. One is what you had and what you think was good and you want to replicate, and
Mhm.
what you had or didn't have and something that you would want to not have in your life, right?
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and also I want to talk about this normality, right? As how the way you was raised, most of it can by definition come with the tag normal.
Mhm.
Until you see other families, other lives, other countries, that is
Oh
normal to
yeah.
you, right? And
Mhm.
only with age and exposure you start questioning, was it really normal?
Mhm.
It's like I know it never happened in my family, but beating your wife, maybe it's not normal, or like drugs or
Oh.
theft or alcoholism and other type of common issue in society. So I think it's really down to individual to question your upbringing and seek that exposure one way or another to question that upbringing, whether you want to propagate what you had as a child or you want to stop something or change.
Yeah,
Agree?
I know. I totally agree. And it's very hard, it's really hard. Um, First, as you said, you need exposure. A lot of people get lucky to get exposed to something else than what they've been used to, or like as you said, like well, we thought certain things were normal, but then you definitely need a different exposure at some point in life, right? I guess a lot of people don't get that.
Very
No.
basic example could be like poverty, right? I mean, as far as I understand, you and me coming from very frugal backgrounds, right?
Hmm.
And you could have, or the person like that could have been raised with the idea, understanding about life. Oh, I guess poverty is just the way to live. Like there is no other type of living.
Hmm.
Everybody is poor. People around me is poor, and you might be going through life thinking, well, it is what it is, and
Yeah.
you might not set the bar for your financial, I guess, higher than that level, and you might be okay with mediocre lifestyle, right?
Hmm.
So how you can get exposure, some sort of information channels like radio, TV, movies, and then you have people in your network, your friends, your relatives, and such.
Hmm.
And then you can broaden it even further, seeing other cities, other countries, and so forth, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I'm very critical of people who never leave their town or don't expand their network, because you don't get that exposure and that normality. What you get used to could be really
Hmm.
illusion. Well, not, I won't say illusion. It's very limiting factor in
It,
life.
yeah. Yeah. Limiting, definitely. Mm.
So talk to me about your lifestyle before and after COVID. Before, as I recall, you've been living Bay Area, and that
Mm.
was bulk of your United States life, right? That's where
Oh
you
yeah.
that was your area where you lived most of the time, and then you moved to Virginia, right?
Hmm.
So talk to me about your lifestyle, what you like, disliked about living in Bay Area, maybe your friends, your routines, and what you're missing right now, perhaps, and what you found living in Virginia, the something that you really enjoy, something that is new to you and you really enjoy, and something that is not so good and you would like to actually uh, live without.
Okay. Cool. So,
Big
as
question,
I
right?
said, oh yeah, it is, and there are a lot of topics, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, the thing I liked about Bay Area is nice weather, definitely, right? And jobs are around. You are always surrounded by the jobs in Bay Area. Um, I've lived quite amount of time in Bay Area. So as I said, I like changes, right? And then with the COVID, me and my wife, we learned the value of family, importance of being around your family. So my wife has a family here in Virginia. So that's very important, right? Life is too short. Create good memories. That's all life is about. So we came here to create the memories for ourselves, for kids, and for family, right? That's the biggest motivating factor. I definitely miss the weather in Bay Area and some of my amazing friends out there. They nothing can replace them. But yeah, Virginia is it's good too. Has four weathers. We get a snow. Um, yeah, my daughter thought snows are not real when we were in Bay Area because we yeah, every time it would snow, we drove to um Lake Tahoe, right? The Either the weather changes or we won't make it to Lake Tahoe. So she only saw after it snow, not the snowfall. So she always thought the snowfall was not real. Um, okay, I hope I still get the question. So yeah, I mean, I didn't miss Bay Area. Um, I moved on. You know, that's what we are supposed to do. Move on. Um, there was the big shift in my lifestyle is about what I want and what I don't want, what makes me happy, right? You know, you've been a great teacher on financial freedom, or you know how to. We talked a lot about finance, right? So another important thing for me was financial freedom. Like try to be as independent as possible. When you have financial stress, that can ruin your life, relationships, so many other things. So you know when you don't have that stress, now you have all these time or space in your brain to think about something that makes you happy, you know, not to worry about things, right? And then that has helped. I don't really care and worry about finance, because you know obviously houses in Bay Area is really expensive. When you buy a house, you have a huge loan, you have to make a huge payments to the bank, you know, work for the banks. I don't work for the banks. So my life has been better. We've been more happier, you know. I
So
think,
having the house paid off straight up, right? You don't have this weight of loan on your shoulders, adds to your happiness, right?
yeah, of course, right? As much as you can, you know, you don't have to buy out your home, but you know, try to always have that on balance with the stress and your comfort zone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've been always proponent of being debt free one way or another. Like I have many credit cards, but I'm
Mhm.
smart how to use them. I basically exploit banks to work for me rather than I work for them. They give you
Mhm.
credit card to try to get you to go to fall behind, and you would be charged late fees and APR. Oh, so
Mhm.
ARP, whatever the annual rate of how much you have to pay for the money that you owe. And I'm like, I realized it pretty fast. I always knew that banks in the business not for making your life better, but making their
Mhm.
profits better. But I also understood how system works and how to leverage credit cards for your advantage. So I have many of them. I make them every year or two again, new ones.
Mhm.
And yeah, you just keep on getting points, miles, rewards, bonuses, whatever. And I play it safe. I put them on autopilot. I put them on a auto replenishment on a billing cycle, and
Mhm.
that's it. I
Oh
just
yeah.
leverage them to my advantage. So you have to be, as you said, smart with money, and that would contribute to your happiness.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, and you know, getting the point on how the banking system works in the US, that understanding it early makes me second. You know, I understood this as soon as I came here. Like when you look at the credit card, it says, "Oh, I'm giving you a credit card," but if you miss a payment, freaking, your APR is 17%.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Nowadays, it's more
when,
like 25.
oh, really? Oh
Yeah.
God. Okay. You know, and think about it, right? Like all your hard-earned money sitting there makes you nothing, and then you miss miss a payment, and you know you pay a high interest. Yeah, I think I've never paid interest or late fee by accident, maybe like 4 or 5 times so far in my, I mean, let's say last 12 years. I'm like, as you said, things are in autopilot. Understand it, right? Understand it. what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
Yeah,
When
and
you
for
get
some
there,
people, maybe don't get credit card if you have no discipline. You don't know how to stay disciplined even without the pilot, right? Because some people might just, oh, I'll pay it next month and cancel autopilot, right? Like know
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
uh and proceed accordingly.
yeah. Don't buy things that you can't afford. Work hard until you afford it.
Come on. It's so seductive to get something for nothing, right?
Oh yeah, it's very hard. So I know. I mean, and that's how these banks make money.
Yeah. Um, so I know you are Nepali, right? From Nepal, and
Mhm.
your spouse is from India.
No,
And
she's from Nepal too.
is it? Oh,
Yeah,
now.
she is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, not now. She's
She
always
always been
been
from
from there.
Nepal?
Yeah.
So you both from Nepal?
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm confused with the other friend of mine.
Could be.
Okay,
You
cool.
must. Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
that's why you are so peaceful with one another. Because my question was around how come you're so peaceful? Because countries, as far as I understand, not like in greatest relationship between themselves.
Yeah, I don't care about the countries and relationship between countries. I think there should not be countries. There should just be like one country in the world. There should not be barriers. People should be free to move around. So I know this was not your question, but then I don't really care if I like somebody, if I like somebody and somebody can be a really true good friend, I don't care. So that's
You
how I
don't
am.
care about where they from. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I do not care about
Yeah, yeah,
who
yeah.
is from where.
Yeah, I was living here. I started to realize that I'm not patriotic and I do not relate to people who are patriotic. I
Mm,
think it's a flawed to a degree on perception of life. I think people really ask question like philosophical question like what is life, what role I play in life, and so forth. So I think
mm,
patriotism and being patriotic is kind of, in my view, mental bug that been induced by leaders of certain countries for them to use you in the role of either certain interest, right?
mm,
And you can play a lot of ways once you induce certain ideology, right? You can talk Nazi, you can talk anything.
mm,
So I think it's important to spend time, as you said, to understand yourself, who you are, your identity. And this is one of the fundamental questions. Are you patriotic? What is your home base? What is your country? What is the country in general, right? You say it should be
mm,
one country. I would say I not really sure whether it should be
yeah.
one, because country means by definition probably certain government structure. We
Hmm.
I tend to believe that the smaller the units of governance, the better the governance turns to be, because you have more factor of skin in the game. You have less of a distance between regular people and those who govern those regular people. So
Mm,
if like you, my friend, my neighbor lives nearby and you in the governance board, you have better chance to care about my life and vice
mm,
versa. But if you, Mr. Biden, who I never seen in my life and who is pretty
mm,
fucking old,
mm,
then you probably don't care about my life and vice
mm.
versa. So, and by the way, there is an interesting topic recently. Uh, the network states. Have you heard about it?
No.
So idea is that we start to live more and more online, and the idea of countries kind of vanishes. You can be
Mm,
living in Mongolia and
mm.
working online for Microsoft in Bellevue, Washington, right? So it doesn't really matter where you live as long as you have internet.
You could be anywhere. You could you could go anywhere. Like as I said, like I like changes. So I like the concept that you just mentioned about the network city, right? That's what you said. I
The
need to look
Network
it up.
State. There
Network
is
state.
a
Yeah.
free PDF book you can find online, and
Hmm.
I'm following that guy, the author of the book, on Twitter for a long time.
Hmm.
And he is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's a former CTO for Coinbase. So when Coinbase acquired his company, he
Hmm.
became Coinbase CTO, and he'd been there for some time during growth phase. And then I
Hmm.
think he retired maybe 2, 3 years ago. In these days, among other things, he like a modern times philosopher. He talks
Hmm.
about things, he comments on events, and and he's not old, like he's relatively young and healthy. So he's really example of modern day philosopher on governance, on economy, on finance, on technology, and he's extremely skilled, and he have technology background. He talks about AI, and in this case, he talks about how right now there is no really big difference where you live. Basically, you only have time zones.
Hmm.
That's the only factor that you should think about when you find place to live. If you need to be working certain time zone, your schedule, so
Hmm.
you just think about how to adapt to it. Like for example, a friend of mine just moved to Cyprus because for him it doesn't matter where to live, but contrary to Tokyo, Cyprus is cheaper and have warmer ocean. Oh, sorry, not ocean, but Mediterranean Sea, right?
Hmm.
And uh, and so forth. So now you can choose location once you know your limiting factors, and limiting factors are really few right now. It's basically the time zone. Yeah, book is free, so look it up.
Yes.
I still have need to find time and desire to read it, but
Hmm.
I have it already. Yeah. How do you stay calm and stress free? Because you always smile. Every time I see you, you just smile. Like there is no shit show going on in your life ever. Is
Yeah. I
that
mean,
illusion? You still have some troubles in your life and you just deal with them?
no, my life is basically predictable, right? Mm, I know. So, as I told you, I've worked hard, me and my wife together, right? We've worked hard to be here. We've always worked hard to minimize the stress. Our focus is always to solve the problems in life, reduce them as much as possible. I guess, those things adds up, and at some point, you would not have too much of a stress. And that's how it should be. Your life should be. If something gives you a stress, stay away from that, right? Try something else. Um, Again, I don't want to give any particular example, but thanks, thanks for saying that I'm always smiling.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I mean
yeah.
that's we talked early on about during the discussion about finding friends and whether to distance or not with people. So you got in my circle because I saw in you qualities that I can relate to or learn from you, certain qualities, and this is definitely one of them. You always been positive person. I seldom seen you stressed or acting irrational or something, if ever. And that's nice to be around such type of people.
Thanks.
What are
I
the?
guess
Go ahead.
I guess people like you who I'm surrounded with, right?
You would
Don't
know
give me
better.
a
I just know
no,
myself,
don't
and
don't
even that is a question.
don't give me a trouble enough to be, stressful about.
General, how do you manage your wealth these days?
So I'm learning, I'm learning every day. Um, so what I'm trying to do now is I have a certain goal. Everybody wants to retire early, right? With a lot of money in the banks. And I was one of them. I couldn't do it when I am older now. So I have certain goals that I have. Me and my wife, we work together. we've set a bar. So what we do is, I think, conscious financial decisions. And again, we are a big fan of financial freedom, not have to work about to live your life, right? So now coming back to specifics is, uh, I think we calculate, we look at what makes sense um, to do. For example, if I had some spare money, does it make sense to just keep it in a savings account or invest it in some stocks? Or does it make sense to invest in a real estate? So when I was in California, we did that. Me and my wife, we invested in a real estate, right? And we made some money from there. So we've learned, right? So we're teaching ourselves. Um, so whatever we do, we diversify, we invest. We don't have money sitting and not doing anything for ourselves. Um, you know, I think, yeah, mostly that, trying to invest and see if that works.
Any specifics? Your allocation between real estate, stocks, and other things?
Um, I I I don't know if I can give you the specific split between the real estate and the stock, but I think the majority of my um, income or money, what I want to do at some point is go to the real estate when the market is right, right? I don't feel like now the market is right. I always wanted to invest in the rental properties. We talked about it. But the kind of a market that I want to get into is where everyone else in is also trying to get into, either for the investment or for the primary residence. So I put on a hold on that area for now, but it's still on a lookout. Um, but at some point, I want to do is 50-50 split, or maybe 60 real estate and 40 in the stock market. Um, yeah, I mean that's a plan.
So that now you mostly park in cash, is that right?
Yeah, sort of. Um, but at the same time, moving these cash to whatever makes sense, right? Like trying to get this smaller opportunity that I could, and again, in the yeah, let's just say that yes,
And given the interest rates right now, having cash in a savings account is actually not a bad idea. It seems like, right? You get in a good case scenario close to 3.5% or so from your high yield savings account.
where do you get that?
I personally get that from Capital One. So their savings accounts, they have basically two accounts, checking and saving. And if you put money on
Mm-hmm,
saving, you get about 3.3 right now. And they
mm-hmm,
basically trail in the Federal Reserve interest rate spikes.
mm-hmm,
So I would say it was a delay about 1 month.
mm-hmm.
And so right now, Fed rate is what is it, about 4% or so. So I'm getting about 3.3.
Okay.
And they keep on raising it as Fed keeps on raising. So it's it's okay. What's called stable because
Mm-hmm.
in dollars, I would question the stability of that. But also, you get in the yield of about 3.3%. The other example
Yeah.
of similar yield could be PNC Bank high. They call it high yield savings account.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, I have to check on that because my take is always look for an opportunity to grow your cash by 10%, and then I'm in a lookout for either real estate or the stocks, which can at least grow by 10%. I mean, that's my
Annual.
minimum. Yeah, that's my minimum set, low risk, and then you can go crazy about the high risk, right? So
Well, if you can get 10% as you aiming to get annually in returns, you can be pretty good fund manager. Because I think statistically S&P gives you something like 12% in good years, and if you can get that or above, then
Mhm.
you're already in a nice blue suit and you're drinking expensive champagne and having strippers dancing on your table.
Yeah, I mean, so it's I don't have a lot of experience on, and I've not been doing this for a long time, right? Maybe a couple of years. So let's see, I'll tell you in another 3, 4
But at the
years.
very minimum, I think we can attest right now that you haven't done financial mistakes, right? Like
Uh,
big financial mistakes that really drag you down.
no, not yet,
Yeah.
and I hope I don't.
Brings you to my kind of final question that I envision to talk about. Is there anything that you would have done differently if you look back on your life? So could you talk about those if you find some of those aspects? And two, maybe you can merge these two together is like advice to people who are looking for to start the adulthood or to navigate life, because life is pretty confusing in a lot of ways. Maybe you can give advice coming from your experience at this point in your life.
Um, yeah, I think some of the things, if I had an opportunity to change or do it differently, I would I would have done stuff about buying houses or the real estate in California differently, right? So when I moved to California in 2000, end of 2010, that was a housing crash time, right? So I did some of the investment which I did was not in the real estate, and I should have done that. And the reason why I'm saying that is I knew real estate, um, nothing can beat the real estate. And I know you have an example of cryptocurrencies or the couple of other investments which can grow exponentially, right? But how often that happens? So yeah, I mean, if I could change, I would change my way of investments from 2010 to 16 or 17. That is something I would
But
change.
maybe
Um,
can I challenge you on that? What I
mhm,
meant is done differently as you realize that you made a mistake. And what is mistake is, I think, knowing that information that you know at the time, you still make wrong decision. That's a mistake to me.
mhm,
What you're describing, in my view, and maybe you can correct me, you didn't have hindsight of what's going to happen. You couldn't have a crystal ball or see the future and knowing that 2008 2010 is a bottom and is a great time
mhm.
to buy, unless you can prove me wrong, or you can say that you had that information or had that belief at least.
I mean, yeah, I had that belief, not the
You did.
information. I mean, yeah, I kind of, your sixth sense tells you something, right? Um, so real estate investments, this is not something I started when I came to US. Back in Nepal when I was in undergrad, I was already, you know, making some really nice financial decisions around the real estates.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean that helped me back home, and then I kind of, had that kind of thought, or I sensed that it could get back to where it was, or at least would get better. It doesn't matter how young you are. I think my advice is start looking at how to make a right financial decisions, how to save money, put them aside for the investment. Always plan uh, your finance for future. Focus on that. There are a lot of good articles, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of materials you can find online, and make the good financial decisions. Over time, smaller saving can be big fund. So just go for that.